right, so welcome everyone to another episode of 20 by 44 Life, a pickleball podcast. I'm here with Alex Wadsworth. Happy to have you on. First of all, Alex, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. And this is our first time getting to know each other, meet each other. So I know we're gonna have some good chats about pickleball, your story, which is an exciting story from what I can tell as well. And you've done a lot in the pickleball world already. But just wanted to quickly kind of go over a little intro, your background, how you got into pickleball. I try to start each show the kind of the same way for our newer listeners out there. But I've talked time and time again, all of us here at 20 by 44 Life and 20 by 44 Pickleball about what drew us into pickleball, how we got started. So just tell me, how did you find pickleball? What made you pick up a paddle for the first time?
Yeah, what's interesting about your last interview that was on your YouTube channel, he said that it was an old person sport, which is exactly how I felt, right? So I show up at the YMCA, it was the first time back in like a year or whatever. And I was like, I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm just going to start working out. I go into, where all the gym bros were, and it just wasn't for me, so I went over to the treadmill. I did that for a little bit. And there is like a local celebrity at the YMCA. His name is Frankie. He's got Down syndrome, and everybody loves him. I mean, he runs around, he helps people work out, he shows them, he does everything. So he grabbed my
I love
hand.
that.
He grabbed my hand. He's like, "Come with me to play pickleball." I was like, "Oh no, Frankie, I'm not like really into that kind of thing." And he's like, "Come on, please, come on." So I get on the court with him, and as soon as I heard that was it. The first time I made that noise, that was it. And I was like, this sport's for me. And I have just nonstop been playing for about 2.5 years now. And I got so addicted to it that I built a court in my front yard.
I saw that. I was going to ask you about it. For one, and I got a story on that too. And we were our producer and I were talking about that a little bit, which is a great story. But I love the fact that you just made the noise as well for the pickleball because you talked about our last episode, but we did a picklepreneurs episode with that one. I don't know if you've listened or watched that, but the whole story there and the whole slogan there is make pickleball louder, right? And you hear so much about, oh, pickleball's loud or things like that, sound deadening type things, sound
Right,
barriers. But that sound of pickleball is what we relate it to, right? Like for me, when I can hear that, I'm like, okay, I'm in the right spot, right? It's like,
right, right.
I mentioned a hockey background, mine a pro hockey guy. When you hear the puck off the glass, not a good thing. Someone's missing the net, but it's still the sign of like, hey, I'm in the rink.
Right.
That's every time I'm not at the court. That's what I miss. But anyway, we were just talking about the court, and because I was reading an article on about you were talking about the court in your front yard and whatnot. Like, I said my next door neighbor picked up pickleball, started taking lessons from someone else involved in 20 by 44 just by chance. And our business, one of our pro coaches, and it's like, hey, let's put a court in the backyard. And I'm like, gosh, the township, the HOA, all this stuff out here. So I'm like, the fact that you actually, it's a great thought, but for me to go out and do it is another thing. And so was court space like that limited for you that you're like, I'm doing this? Or was it more of a community side that you wanted to get this done in your front yard and be like, okay, this is the spot? Or like, what was the thought process there?
So, like I said, 2.5 years ago, we could show up at any place that we wanted to, and there would at least be 2 to 3 courts available. There's no pressure. Nobody was really that competitive. It was very like, fun and fun loving and all that. And then, we have a couple parks in our area. One, I mean, I'm probably going to offend some people, but depending on if they're locals and they listen, but Keystone Park is not as advanced as another park, which is North Lakes. So we were going to Keystone for a little bit, so that started getting busy. So we went over to North Lakes, and it was just a totally different vibe. It was
Yeah.
very competitive and very clicky, like they were mentioning before. It wasn't for me. So we built this court in my yard, and it cost about 25,000, which was the total thing. And so my wife wouldn't get mad at me. I went ahead and I started doing tournaments, like paid tournaments, single elimination tournaments, because I have one court in my yard. And people were traveling over an hour away to play for like 4 minutes and then lose. You know what I mean? It was crazy. So we did a couple tournaments, and we found that, like, to really make an impact in the industry, there's so many people doing tournaments, you just kind of have to scale it, and you have to do 10 a month. So we started doing this expo idea, and that really took off for us. So we're really still making an impact in the pickleball world. We just have a lot going on. And so the other thing I want to mention about the court is on Tuesday nights, just like last night, we have people come for free and we teach them the beginnings. You get like some people can't even make the ball over the net.
Yeah, like an intro to pickleball type
Yeah,
lesson
and
for
it's
free.
free. It
Okay.
doesn't. It doesn't. We have all the paddles. We have all the balls. They just show up, and I post it on Facebook for anybody to show up. I have waivers. I'm insured by the PPR. Have you ever heard of the app Swimply?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So that,
Yep.
yeah, non-spawns, right? But it is awesome. So for those that want to rent a pickleball court out, they offer you $1 million insurance policy. So if
I didn't
people
know
go
that
through,
side of it.
yeah,
That's great.
and
Okay.
so they have to pay the $5 insurance $5 insurance, whatever. But I mean, it's $1 million, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And I it's great that people are traveling over an hour, but it shows
Right,
you how much people want to get on the court and obviously what you've built there. It speaks to that as well, like the community side of it that's going out there. But just the fact that you're getting for one offering that intro to pickleball. I mean, we talk a lot about community, our whole company, our whole, podcast. All of this is about growing the pickleball community, about how great the community can be, how welcoming it is. Yeah, we all hit,
right,
like you said, there's depending what park, what clique it is. It's
right,
the social aspects of society and life that we have to deal with,
right,
but it's in general a very welcoming sport, right, for people to be
right,
able to pick up. But offering intro to pickleball for free, I mean, that's huge. And honestly, there's not many places, unfortunately. There's a lot of capitalization on people coming into the game. So there's not that many places where you can get that free intro to pickleball anymore. At least, I mean, I'm between Michigan, Minnesota, and travel a lot for tournaments, but I haven't seen it many places. So I applaud
right.
you for that because that's
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
that's huge.
Well,
That's
it's my
huge. So
my partner and I do it. My partner is his name's Gary. He's actually really good. Okay, he knows how to play, all that kind of stuff. Even though I've been playing 2.5 years, I'm still considered a beginner. Okay, because when I play in tournaments, okay, this is my thing, right? Your thing might be to come in first place, but my thing is to come in last place every single time. So,
hey, there's got to be a first and there's got to be a last.
and
Let me
I'm the
tell you, I
last,
don't
baby.
I don't come in first every time. I can tell you that. That's for sure. Um, so I got to ask. I saw a really cool logo, and there's a cool company. So Pickleman, you got to go into that and explain that for me. It's your business, but also talk to me about the logo because told our
Okay.
producer before we started this episode, Caitlin, that I absolutely loved the logo and I think it's unique. And there's a lot of someone's going to get mad at me again. I'm going to offend somebody, but a lot of overdone pickleball naming,
Right, right.
logos, all this kind of stuff. So anyway, talking about Pickleman and that logo.
So Pickleman was created as basically a company to protect a company that can hold insurances that will protect my court and my property.
Got
So
it.
that's what
Okay.
we created. So we came up with a name called Pickleman because nobody out there was using Pickleman. You think that somebody would. So this is where it gets funny. There's a Pickleman Pickles, like a guy who sells pickles, right? So it's
Now I get the tagline. Okay.
yeah. So our lawyer said, listen, you can use the name Pickleman, even though it sounds close to Pickleman. It sounds close. The only thing is you got to make sure that you don't sell pickles. You can't even wear a pickle shirt. You can't have a pickle costume. Don't do anything with pickles because you don't want. So our logo is literally, we don't sell pickles. So there's
With
no
like
dispute.
a Yeti or
A
abominable
Yeti, yeah.
snowman on there, right? Yeah,
Yeah, a
just so
little
that
Yeti.
everyone listening in that hasn't seen it. Yeah, to me it's a cool logo, but I wondered where though we don't I mean Pickles, pickleball, that's where I drew the connection of the we
Yeah,
don't sell pickles, but there's an actual naming
yeah.
issue or resolution that you found, which is that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Resourceful. Uh so you said you play some tournaments. I mean, I'm gonna ask him what like do you go Florida area generally, what level do you play at? Just to give I try to ask these not to majority of people aren't playing pickleball competitively, right? It's a
Right,
social recreational sport. But I ask because for everybody listening out there, we get a lot of newer to pickleball folks. We get a lot of people that, I come from a cross-functional multi-sport background. So whether we have like hockey people listening in or baseball or
right.
slow pitch softball, they may be like, oh, well, I go to my local court and it
Right.
seems like it's always whatever these 4550 people are, or whatever these pro
Right.
people are that think like, they don't want me near them. And then they'll go to another court and it's warm and welcoming. So Yeah, just talk to me a little bit about that if you don't mind, like
Yeah.
what you're doing, what you're playing at.
So every tournament that I've played in has mostly been to help a friend of mine, right?
I like that.
I don't go out there to try to win or anything. They say, "Hey, we need bodies," and I got a big mouth, so I try to get people. My pickleball partner. Okay, I don't think he includes me as his partner, but I force him to play with me all the time. He's really good, so
We
I just
always have one of those.
right. I
We
just
all,
have it's a charity. He does it as a charity, I think. So the first time we played was this it's called Dink to Donate. It's for mental health awareness.
okay.
They don't even have a website yet. It's run by like people. Oh, we don't offend. Like this whole episode is not offending people, right? They're
No,
probably in their
no offending.
60s. Like if I was being nice, I would say 50s, but it could be some in their 70s. So I would say around their 60s, 70s, and they're putting on a thing called Dink to Donate, which is mental health awareness. And my entire family's like played with mental health issues, from like identity crisis to like bipolar, schizophrenic. Like I have all that. So I thought it would be like my way of giving back to be part of Dink to Donate. So I played their first tournament, came in last place, which was a 3.5. So I was like, okay, we'll play next year, and then we came in third place out of five. So it's still kind of it's not
Hey,
last.
that's improvement. That is not last. That hey, that's improvement.
So and then in Tampa, the Yankees have a baseball stadium in Tampa. So it's just like their winter stadium or whatever it is.
Yeah, like spring training and
Spring
whatnot. Yeah.
training, yeah, yeah. So they have that, and so they just did a pickleball day, and they had even though they had a baseball game going on that everybody was paying attention to, they still had pickleball like lines in the hallways. And if you've ever been to any type of stadium, the hallways become like these mini tornado hurricanes where the wind just like sucks out of the stadium. So we were playing up against that. If we were on the back end, we were nailing the balls going 100 miles an hour. But once you switch, like it was almost impossible to get it. So that was the other tournament I've played in, and then obviously we've played in the tournaments at my house. So I would say total probably 5 or 6 tournaments, and they've all been between 3.0 and 3.5.
No,
So
that's cool. That's cool. And
yeah,
I like to just try to give everybody a little look in because there's so much, you start playing, you start with intro or learn to play pickleball 101, whatever you want to call it. And then people go into like 102 and then they might begin to take lessons or whatever, or just play recreationally. Whatever they do, there's that constant pressure of someone being like, whether it's 2-5, 2-0, if that level's offered. We have it in a couple local tournaments here in Michigan because there's so many players now. But like people just get brought along, sucked into playing, being like, "Oh, come
right,
play a tournament." Some people get hooked, some people hate it, right?
right.
It depends what they're looking for, but yeah, I always like to ask it. Those baseball venue pop-up things are becoming more and more popular, more and more
Yeah,
popular. We actually had one. Detroit Tigers had one here where actually the Pickler was like a presenting sponsor or whatnot. I don't know what the relationship really was, but they had a pop-up court. They gave away pickleball paddles and things like that to people that
nice.
booked it up, and it was pretty cool to see. The unique part was though, I'd love to go in like minor league stadium, spring training stadium, major league doesn't matter. It's cool that the two sports are crossing over, but here you weren't even allowed to like get on the court and play. It was only people that worked like for the Pickler, and they were basically
Right,
doing it as like a demonstration. I'm like, come on, people want to get out there. They had little sport court laid down so that at
right.
least it was all in the concourse. So it seems like more and more of those are popping up across the country for the Major League Baseball teams. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a I don't really watch baseball. I tried, but
I don't either.
I don't know how people keep up with 27 games a month or whatever. I don't know.
I,
I can't. It's
I
crazy.
thought 82 was high for hockey, and then you look at baseball, right? And then playing double headers, or if there's rain reschedules and things like that, or playing a game a day for 5 days a week, it's crazy.
It's
I don't know
crazy.
how they do it. So from I'll say a business standpoint, a pickle man, and what you do there, we kind of talked a lot about that. But tell me more about, and I'm not going to lie, I am not versed well in this. I'm versed in a lot of things pickleball, but I've heard about the Florida Pickleball Expo and what's going on there. So, I mean, me selfishly, I'd like to hear more about it. I don't know much about the
Right.
whole thing. So yeah, just go into that for a little bit.
So I'll start with the kind of the history of the expos in Florida anyway. They have some down south. There's some in Kansas. There's some in Las Vegas. There's some in NOLA, and they're all over the place, right? So 3 years ago, we heard that when people showed up at these expos, like no one was there, like they just weren't there. So we went to the one in Vegas, and there was some people there. It wasn't huge, maybe 40 vendors or something like that. And then we went to the one in Kansas, and there was probably twice the amount of people. So
Kansas is PickleCon. Is that the
yeah,
one you're talking about? Okay.
so basically, what we're seeing is a growth in the industry, right? So
Yeah.
there'll be another Vegas show, there'll be another Kansas show before our show even happens, which is going to be in September of next year. So it's a year
Got
from of this month, right? So we're going to all these expos, and we're not just necessarily there to try to get the exhibitors to kind of come to our event, kind of, snipe them, whatever it's called, headhunt them or whatever. We're there to get feedback and ask a lot of questions like, what are some things that you would change if we were to have you at our expo? Like, what's something that you like? And some of the feedback we're getting is, you know, the networking that goes on between the vendors, because there's like a lot of B2B going on.
Yep.
And another thing that I like to say is you're not really a pickleball player until you have your own side business. That's basically, if
You,
you don't have a
you,
podcast yet, or you're not selling apparel, or you're not doing something, you're not really a pickleball player.
you're not wrong on that. There's more pop-up businesses, more growing
Right.
businesses. I've met more vendors even at our local tournaments lately that are popping up out of nowhere. But yeah, you're 100% right on that
Right.
too.
Everybody seems to make their own paddles too. We made paddles, our number one most selling paddle. It literally says this paddle sucks on it, and we just sell it. And we just went on, because what they do is they go on they go to these Chinese websites or whatever, and or the different companies, and they say, hey, and it literally is just a sheet. It's like this big, and you can just check off all the stuff that you want. Big paddle, thick paddle, long handle, short handle. So you just met. So what we did is we marked the absolute cheapest options that you could possibly mark. They were like, $4, and we sell them for 20, and they go on eBay and they break like right away because they're the crappiest paddles. But that's what we're looking for, because they're shitty paddles. So this paddle
Well,
sucks.
we're gonna have to bring you over to the 20x44 paddles
Yeah,
and do that, because we can't have you doing custom paddles that are breaking like that. But no, I mean that whole marketing side, this paddle sucks. It reminds me of like I'm giving a shameless plug here, but the name branding is great, right? It's called The Best Paddle, or The Best
yeah,
Paddle, which
yeah.
Jamie Foxx did his whole thing, and he's a part owner or whatnot. I don't know the whole, or he's a sole owner. I don't know but I'll tell you, we were talking about all these names matching, and there's Pickles spelled 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways out there of
Right.
different types of companies, which is cool. Nothing against those companies, I get it, but like this paddle sucks, the best paddle, right? Selfishly, 20x44, because everyone goes, what the heck's 20x44? And I look at him like, you've been playing pickleball for 5 years before I even
Right.
knew what pickleball was. And you don't know what 20x44 is, right? And then we get into the whole court dimensions and the community and all that. But so no, that's great, because I'll be honest, like we wanted to go to PickleCon this year. We hit some scheduling conflict as a company, as a business, hit some scheduling conflicts. So we're very much interested in those things going forward. I've heard, great things. I know, not trying to like plug another expo, but like PickleCon had a great turnout, and you mentioned the numbers were strong this year. So I can only imagine those two, and then the Florida Expo next year, I would imagine would be massive, especially with the amount of pickleball in Florida, right? The other two places you mentioned, sure, they have pickleball, but I wouldn't consider. I mean, Vegas, yeah, you get the Utah community and all that, but like those aren't necessarily pickleball hotbeds.
Right.
Anything in the state of Florida is a pickleball hotbed, right? I mean, that's what we think
Well,
of.
Well, what we're doing differently than any of the rest of these expos is that we're not having a tournament. There's no tournament involved. And the reason why is because we crunched all the numbers. We looked at PickleCon and the one and the one in Vegas, and we looked at how much they're spending on the courts, the labor, the shipping, and then it doesn't, just because the players that are playing are subsidizing the cost, it's not covering the entire cost. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use all that money and all that time and all those resources to market our event to get tons of people there. So instead of spending $10,000 on a court, we're going to use that money for social media ads, for, Google, YouTube, Facebook, really try to get a bunch of people there. And so when they get there, what are they going to do, right? That was a question. Well, have you heard of any of the pickleball fashion shows that people have been doing at the expos?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
No.
So we're putting a huge emphasis on our fashion show. So we're gonna have one every 2 hours throughout the day, and we're gonna have a senior fashion show, a kids fashion show, all women, all men, all these different fashion shows going on. So the way that our expo is set up, the Florida Pickleball Expo, is it's like a pinwheel. So all the rest of them are in rows. Traditionally, if you ever go to an expo, it's just a
Yep.
bunch of rows. Ours looks like this. It's a pinwheel, and there's 100 booths around the stage. So anytime there's a show, everybody has to go into the booth and then back out of the booth, into the booth. So then the question is, once this fashion show, and we're getting ready to have a meeting on how much it's going to be a fashion show contest. So there's going to be a cash prize or maybe two for people that come out and really like do well and get a lot of votes. We're going to have like a panel there for people to vote on each person and, how they present themselves, all that kind of
Pretty
stuff.
cool. It's unique.
Yeah, so that's one. So then what are they going to do once they're waiting for the things is we're going to actually have speed dating. So people who want to date other pickleball players, we're going to have a little cocktail table. So let's say like at 2:30, this group goes over to the cocktail tables and they just they just do their speed dating event, So we have the fashion show speed dating. We're also going to have speakers and presenters. We're going to have the exhibitor booths, of course, and then we want to have like right when you walk into the facility, we're gonna have a really long red carpet, okay? And I want to get a bunch of interns from the local colleges to come out and just have cameras in their hand, just snap 1,000 pictures of everybody.
All the paparazzi.
Yeah, paparazzi, baby.
Oh, I love it. I
So
love it.
that's
So how many days, like a 3-day event or how long? Because
yeah,
I know each one of the ones you brought up is a different length, right? The one in
yeah.
Vegas, different length than Kansas.
Kansas, yeah. So ours is it's like about 2.5 days. It'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have a setup day on Thursday. We're debating and we're starting a conversation on this if we want to just do Friday as the setup day, and then let people, because Friday if people come on Thursday, that could be a great opportunity for people to meet other people and network, but they're also setting up, so it's kind of hard. But if
Yeah.
we do like half a day on Friday, then we could do setups and things like that. Our last tour of the facility, because keep in mind, we're a year away. We still have a
Yeah.
whole year to plan. There's a lot of moving things. There's things that are changing, and we're getting vendors all the time signing up. Why our rates are kind of lower. Like every other expo, the rates go up and up as time goes on. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we just have to make sure that we're getting vendors that are contributors to the industry. Like one of our vendors, for example, is a health insurance company, right? The reason that's valuable is because people are getting hurt all the time in pickleball. So even though it's not directly related to the industry, it's helping the industry. And
Yeah.
Dink to Donate, we have a South what's it called? Sunshine State Pickleball, which was in one of the better. It was like voted as one of the top pickle or sports companies in Tampa Bay. So they're working with us, and the Tampa Sports Authority is going to work with us. Yeah, I mean we're getting a lot of attention. We're a year. That's the thing. People all the time say, "Oh man, I wish I could sign up. I'll show up next month," but like it's not next month. It's next year. You got a year and a month, and then they get
Yeah,
really
lots
upset.
of time. Lots of time.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's some good like I know Florida on top of MLP and all that, you have like the whole little pro pickleball league. It's not little pro pickleball league and stuff like that hovers around that area. I mean, even I'm just thinking even for that high level of pickleball, when you have that many vendors, suppliers, like people are going to come out and travel. I'm putting my business hat on now. People
yeah,
are going to come out, even like people that are running teams or starting clubs or whatever, because you're going to have the apparel in one place or the fashion, right, in one
yeah,
place. You're going to have the paddles in one place. You don't necessarily, I mean, yeah, the tournament's a nice thing if that's what you're looking for to play, but it
right,
also creates, you mentioned, because my question was going to be, well, how do you plan to keep people around there then, right? You answered that question, but conversely, if you had a tournament, now you're spreading out. People are watching the tournament. People are
right,
watching, the fashion show or the booth. So by not having a tournament, I think that's actually a great idea, great
right,
business plan because it's more valid. Like if I'm looking at it as a vendor, 20 by
right.
44 pickleball coming there. I mean, that's huge because who's ever in there, it's eyes on the vendor or eyes on the apparel company. which I
Right.
think is
We're going to
great.
have a booth it's called a media booth, and there's going to be 4 RE320 microphones, a soundboard, and it's some chairs and everything. And so podcasters like yourself and others can sign up to use that hour. So like if you guys wanted Saturday at noon or whatever, you guys could book that spot so you can broadcast your entire podcast out of the arena. So you don't have to bring and pack all your own stuff, because that sucks, to have to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah.
So we have the soundboard, we have the 4 mics, we have the table. You guys can, if you want to bring your own banner, you can do that. But it's just going to be a little, probably 20 by 20 space with a setup for people to, use for however they want. So
That sounds great. Well, you can we'll have more post podcast discussion, because I know we'll be getting a presence there, and we would love
yeah.
to join and be a part of that. And I
Oh, very
know
cool.
that'll be a huge turnout as well. And I know there's a lot of I know you've listened into our other podcasts, and you followed what we do a little bit, but we're heavily involved with the Columbus Hot Shots and the Senior Pro Pickleball there, and sponsoring them from a paddle standpoint, things like that. So I think there's some good opportunity when you talk senior pickleball and things like that too. Pickleball enthusiasts love to see the senior players who play at the top level, and then apparel opportunities and fashion and all that. I know before we ever started this, I had a deal with Avi. I don't know if you've seen their pickleball clothing, AVI, Avi, and he's actually company's named after him. He's based out of Florida. But they were like the first ones, as far as I know, that touched into when you brought up fashion, that's where my mind went, because they brought out a pickleball apparel product a couple years ago now. You and I started playing kind of around the same time, to be honest. I'm like basically about 3 years in at this point. So I might, a little longer than you, but we there wasn't like a Lululemon and Aloe, that type of company that was like, now you see all these pros wearing these clothing brands, full sponsorship, all that. There wasn't any of that in pickleball back then. So you had like Avi popped up as a that type of apparel, that type of fashion in pickleball, but straight pickleball, right? Like the logo looks
Yeah.
like a pickleball and all that. So that's where my mind went, because you look at how many companies from a fashion standpoint, from an apparel standpoint, I mean, every week there's a new one popping up that grows exponentially quickly, and it's just everyone's looking for it, and it's okay, how do I find it, or where do I buy that from, or what's the
Right.
website? You'll have everything in one place there. So
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be great. That'll be great. So yeah, count us in on that, that's for sure.
Oh, awesome.
So I mean, and I just want to jump back into the, because that's going to bring my thought process. You're going to bring a lot of people into the Florida pickleball community in your area, right? People are traveling in. People already do for pickleball, right? The U.S. Open, the multiple tournaments that are held, and I bring up the U.S. Open because it's great, because it's every skill level. It's hybrid pickleball, wheelchair pickleball, all that stuff. So you get more people traveling in for that than kind of any other tournament. But this might be this might rival that for largest amount of people traveling in just for pickleball. I mean, are you I'm not going to tie you down to a venue, because maybe you don't have that set yet, but whereabouts do proximity wise, big city or small town, where do you expect this to be held at?
Yeah, so it's going to be in Tampa, all right on the outskirts of Tampa, in a really well-known area called the Florida State Fairgrounds. It's where they hold the
Got
Florida
it.
State Fair. It's going to be indoors, even though the fair's outdoors. They're where they used to do like the Ringling Brother and Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Yep.
You know, that's where we're doing it. So it's going to be inside of that building. So
Okay.
there's going to be when you walk in, it's just this massive area. And to kind of touch base on the tournament, both in Vegas and both in Kansas, we saw the players on the right, over there where the players are playing. And what we saw is when those players got off the court, they beelined it for the exit, and they never went to the vendors ever. It's just, and it's not because the players don't want to support. It's because the players already are supporting many businesses. They already have their apparel, they already have their paddles, and they want to get out of there, because I guarantee you most of them already have their next game lined up somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're ready to just go play more and more and more. The kind of people that we're trying to bring are people that aren't necessarily the professional players, because they're already set and ready. It's
Set. Yep.
people that are kind of more newer to the sport, more into the industry, that want to kind of support other small businesses. we're networking with a lot of people who are doing like apparel and have their own courts and different things like that in our area. So we're really hoping that everybody gets involved. So it's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah, it's going to be in Tampa. I think I said that.
Okay. No, yeah, that's cool. And again, I'm partial to that area. I have my family has a place in North Naples, so that's not too far away
Okay,
to be
yeah,
able
not
to,
too
you know what
far.
I mean, be able to come up and make it an easier trip. So if people want to get, I know, want to get the ability for people to be able to reach out to you after they
Yeah.
listen to this. What's the best way to get a hold of you about, a booth or whatnot at the expo?
Yeah, sure. So it's Florida. You can Google because I'm getting pretty good at on SEO. So it's Florida Pickleball Expo. It's pretty easy. The Florida Pickleball Expo. And if you just Google that, our websites will pop up 1, 2, and 3 on Google, and you can just check out our exhibitor booths. You can check out our sponsorship opportunities. Even if you just want to come, there's tickets. There's VIP tickets. There's all kinds of different areas. The VIP. Some of the feedback that we got about people who want VIP areas is they want it to be a quiet room, not necessarily like where the noise just is, and there's going to be some food, like little, just snacks and things like somewhere so they can refresh and kind of relax before they go back out there and networking and meeting more people. Because there's going to be a lot of B2B because like I was saying, if you're a player, you're a business owner too, so
Yeah,
there's a lot of
that's
that
true.
going on. So
Everyone needs a little reprieve sooner or later. Find somewhere they can refuel and get in the
right.
VIP area and then get back out there
Yeah,
and
that's it.
keep net when there's that many people, nobody wants to miss out on the opportunity of speaking with somebody too, right? From the
Right.
B2B side. So
Yeah.
no, that's great. That's great. And hopefully we can help out and partner with that with you as well. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
jumping in and doing this with us. And looking forward to how we can mutually grow 20 by 44 life and help you out with the pickleball expo at any way that we can as well. And it's very unique and refreshing to see someone else that just kind of is ingrained and gives back to the community. I mean, having a court in your front yard, like, that's one I'm gonna be talking about for a while, quite honestly, because so many of us are like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna put this here, or I want to do this, I have this vision. And from a business standpoint, I jump into it. But then, I live in a community that butts up against a golf course, and I'm like, there's no way I'm getting the okay to put a pickleball court in, but I'd love to be able to do it from the community aspect. You went out there, did it, put it out there for everybody. I commend you for that. So thanks for coming on. We
That's
appreciate it. And for everybody listening in, feel free to check out 20 by 44, 20x44.net for paddles, accessories, and listen into the next episode. And until then, let's rally.